Tonight on America Decides, Pete Hegseth on the Hill. President-elect Trump's pick for defense secretary faces senators and protesters in his high-stakes confirmation hearing.
Admittedly, this nomination is unconventional. The nominee is unconventional. That may be what makes Mr. Hegseth an excellent choice to improve this unacceptable status quo.
Mr. Hegseth, I do not believe that you are qualified to meet the overwhelming demands of this job. We must acknowledge the concerning public reports against you.
What the veteran and former Fox News host had to say about his qualifications, allegations of sexual assault, and plans for the Department of Defense. We're also following the release of Jack Smith's report, what the investigation into President-elect Trump's election interference case found, and why the special counsel says the incoming president would have been convicted for January 6th. Let's start tonight with Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill. Nikole, I know you were in that hearing room following all of this, and you've been covering Hegseth since he was announced as the nominee. I think all of our eyes today, though, were on Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa, because she was the most critical when some of these allegations first came out. And we know that Hegseth can only afford to lose, I think, 3 Republicans. I want to play a little bit of what she had to say in her line of questioning.
I want to know, again, let's make it very clear for everyone here today. As Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Senator, first of all, thank you for your service, as we discussed extensively as well.
It's my privilege.
And my answer is yes, exactly the way that you caveated it. Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles, given the standards remain high.
So, Nikole, what did you make of how Ernst was questioning Hegseth, and what do you make of his chances of making this out of committee?
Yeah, well, it was kind of in line with her line of questioning when she met with Hegseth a few weeks ago. She actually met with him at least 2 times that we are aware of, and was one of those who had kind of held her views about Pete Hegseth, wouldn't really commit one way or the other as to whether or not she would support him. So her line of questioning today was kind of consistent with some of the areas where she has expressed concern, which is she was concerned about, for instance, whether or not the Pentagon would submit to a clean audit, or when it would finally get a clean audit. That's been kind of a big sticking point for her. So she raised that in today's hearing, but had previously raised it in meetings with Hegseth. And then, as you heard there in that soundbite, she again asked him about his views about women serving in combat in the military. And she also asked about whether or not he would commit to addressing sexual assault within the military by naming an additional official, to oversee that. So those were all concerns that she had raised prior to the hearing, that she reiterated during the hearing. So we didn't necessarily hear anything new from the senator. However, I would point out that she did make clear to me when I asked her about whether the committee should hear from that accuser. Take a listen to what she told me earlier today.
Get some clarity around Pete Hegseth's accuser. Did somebody from the accuser, do you want to hear from the accuser, Senator? I know this is a very important issue to you. Do you want to hear from the accuser?
We'll visit after the hearing.
And did someone reach out to your office, Senator? Yes or no? Did someone reach out to your office?
I have not spoken to you.
And so part of the reason I asked her about that is because, Hegseth submitted to an FBI background check. And from our understanding, according to several senators on the Senate Armed Services Committee, not all of them had access to those findings. Furthermore, some said that it was not as complete as they thought it should be. Now, that's mostly Democrats on the panel who said that, but they did acknowledge, to the best of their understanding, that it did not include an interview with that accuser. with respect to the incident back in 2017 at a California hotel, nor did it include any interviews with Hegseth's ex-wives. So that is something that some lawmakers were looking for, and also given Senator Ernst's views around sexual assault, that's kind of why I pressed her about whether she felt it was important to hear from that accuser. That being said, we don't anticipate that accuser to come forward at this time, and most senators coming out of the hearing today seem to feel relatively satisfied with the way the hearing went, the amount of information that was provided, although that was mostly from the Republican side of the aisle. Many Democrats feel that they still have more questions after today's hearing.
All right, Nikole Killion on the Hill with those tough questions. Thank you for following it all for us. We appreciate it. And Katrina Kaufman and Gómez join us now to unpack some more of this. Guys, thanks for being here. Katrina, I want to start with you because we heard from lots of Democrats on this panel who are trying to kind of push this case against Hegseth. I want to play a little bit of what Mazie Hirono, who's a senator from Hawaii, had to say.
Then President Trump directed former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to shoot protesters in the legs in downtown D.C., an order Secretary Esper refused to comply with. Would you carry out such an order from President Trump?
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard unit that was in Lafayette Square during those events.
Would you carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs?
I saw 50 Secret Service agents get injured by rioters trying to jump over the fence, set the church on fire, and destroy a statue.
That sounds to me that you will comply with such an order.
So what does that exchange suggest or signal about how Hegseth may be different from past secretaries of defense?
So during this questioning, it just really felt evident that Hegseth is not going to push back on orders from Donald Trump. As we just saw in that clip, another question she asked him is what he would do if Trump asked him to take Greenland or the Panama Canal, which are things that we've heard Trump talking about lately. And Hegseth refused to answer that, too. He said that he wasn't going to make a statement either way in this public forum. So that would be a real contrast from Mark Esper, for example, who, when Trump wanted him to put active duty troops on the streets at the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, he pushed back against that, ultimately to his detriment. But it doesn't seem like Hegseth would really be counter to things that Trump asked him to do.
I mean, speaking of Trump, so obviously the audience is the senators who are asking these questions and Hegseth answering, the American people who can see this for themselves, but Donald Trump also is a target member of the audience here. I know you've been talking to people inside Trump's circle. What are they saying about how and whether he watched it and kind of what his takeaways were?
Well, I think the number one viewer, the most important viewer for Pete Hegseth and his entourage there was Donald Trump. And a senior advisor to Trump tells me that he did watch at least part of it, and he said he was very happy. The president-elect was very happy with how well he did today. I spoke to another advisor who said he crushed it, deflated the Dems, set the tone for the rest of the nominees. Democrats have nothing, and that he was excellent, proved why Trump chose him. Obviously, you see this praise coming from Mar-a-Lago, from West Palm Beach, on how well he did. And just if you remember, just about a month ago, his nomination was in trouble. I mean, there were people lining up to potentially replace him, including Ron DeSantis. And now it feels like we're in a different place now.
Yeah, kind of a comeback story of his own in so far as this hearing goes. Katrina, did we learn anything about kind of what Hegseth's vision is for the Department of Defense and the military?
Yeah, he spoke at the opening about how he wants to foster a warrior culture, to rebuild the military, to establish more deterrence. Something he's talked about a lot is he wants to eliminate diversity and inclusion policies. He has talked about really just firing top senior leadership, especially people who have been involved in DEI and in the withdrawal from Afghanistan as well. So he says he wants to get rid of wokeness in the military.
Yeah, that was a line of questioning from nearly every Republican senator here, so kind of pushing that message. I mean, it seemed to me, Finn, that Hegseth will likely get confirmed. I mean, even Joni Ernst, who Nikole talked about there, started off her questioning by submitting a record of a very complimentary letter from an Iowa National Guardsman. And so it seems like a lot of today, as you mentioned, Hegseth was kind of left for dead a month ago, seems to be perhaps a foreshadowing of some of these other nominees. Is that kind of how Trump sees it, that this is opening the door for others to get confirmed?
Yeah, I think so. And in speaking with both Republicans and Democrats, they were looking at Ernst. They were looking at Ernst and see what her reaction would be, because they felt that his candidacy, his nomination really hinged on her reaction, right? With some of these very troubling allegations that we have heard and that had been reported earlier, late last year. But now with his, how well the Trump did and how she reacted, I feel that again that he's in there's a different trajectory now with Hegseth, and it does, we have to see the vote, we have to see it go through the committee, but how it does feel that like the tenor has changed for Hegseth's nomination.
Yeah, I mean, he can only afford to lose 3 senators. Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins aren't kind of beholden to that same Trump base the way that some of these others were. But it was just so notable to me that Roger Wicker, the chairman of the committee, came out and called it a triumph. And I think that kind of tells us everything we need to know about how Republicans at least are seeing it, and they're targeting Republicans.
Sure.
I want to switch gears a little bit, Finn, because I know you have some new reporting on some high-profile guests who will be at inauguration in just a few days.
Right,
Who's
we're just a few days away from inauguration, but CBS News has learned that Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg are expected to attend the inauguration on the 20th. And of course, all 3 have donated to the inauguration committee, as we know. They're also the 3 richest people on Earth, according to Forbes, an estimated worth of $850 billion combined. But of course, this is something new. We have not seen this sort of presence prior in recent inaugurations, and it also says a lot about their potential influence that they will carry this incoming administration.
Yeah, I mean, several tech leaders, including all of those there. I mean, Elon Musk has basically moved into Mar-a-Lago, but several others have come to meet with Donald Trump in West Palm Beach. I know we have all spent a lot of time there following them. I mean, Katrina, just quickly, this seems to be kind of a sign of big tech coming back, yet another sign, I should say, of big tech, really firmly behind Trump.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not surprising that they're coming. We've been seeing them, as you said. Elon Musk is basically living at Mar-a-Lago. Mark Zuckerberg is conferring with Trump before people on his own board about his content moderation policies. So I think this may be signs of what's to come.
Yeah, great.
A definite shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Something to watch in this new Congress as well. Finn and Katrina, thank you very much for your reporting. We appreciate it.